Hello and welcome to Fandemonium, the show where a bunch of nerds sit around and talk about nerd crap that we all enjoy and share with you, the viewer. I'm your host, Storm, and with me we have the ruler of all things, Bez, the destroyer of all things, Lightning, and our guest, Naki. How you all doing?
Doing well.
I'm breathing.
That's.
I am also breathing.
I don't know if I breathe anymore. I'm trying to merge with the machines and take Neo's place as the one. I'll let you know if it goes good or not.
Fantastic! So, our topic for this week is secret origins. Basically, what got us into our respective circles of nerddom, and how those nerd things have affected us for better or for worse. Hopefully, it's mostly for better. So, would any of you guys like to start us off, or shall I?
I'll start, because I can think of a couple that I could do.
Okay. Lightning, you have the floor.
It's an obsession I'm not really known for, but I'm probably the thing I'm the most diehard fanboy for would be Kingdom Hearts. And I got into this many moons ago. I guess the common trend I'll say at the start with all my obsessions, fan obsessions, is that I tend to wait until something gets popular before I, check it out. I never check something out at the very start of it. I'm always like a little far behind other people.
Yeah, same.
So, like with Kingdom Hearts, I saw the original I saw the original trailers for it on TV, like the commercials for it, and I saw like Mickey Mouse and anime characters on there, and I was like, oh, that's dumb. Looks like Disney's trying to get into video games again. This is gonna be stupid. So I just like forgot the game completely existed for the longest time, and then like months afterwards, I was over at my friend's house when I saw him play it, and I was like, really? You're playing this thing? He's like, nah, dude, it's pretty cool. And so I played it. I played it for a couple hours at his house, and I was like, this is amazing. I love it. So I guess like from there, like I guess what else would we like to talk about this? Like how it's gone throughout the years, or how it grew? What?
How's your fandom affected you, and how it has changed over the years? Yeah. What would you like to
I
talk
guess
about that?
as silly as it may say, Kingdom Hearts is like affected I guess my life and moral compass a bit. Like growing up, I always I resonated really well with its concepts and themes about like light and darkness, about friendship and love and all that shit. Because it's like it growing up with like Disney films, that was one thing that was heavily taught to me. And then Kingdom Hearts was kind of that way of adapting those very traditional lessons to like I guess a somewhat more adult setting, more adult than some of the Disney films, but not fully adult yet. I guess a more teenage adaptation, you could say. But yeah, I really like the resonation of those themes, and also like I guess you could talk about like the gameplay and stuff too.
Yeah,
I
go
just
ahead.
found it very interesting. Like I grew up watching. I never played any of the Final Fantasy games, but I watched my friends play them, and so. Even though I'd never played as Cloud or Squall or any of these people, I knew who they were, and so they had kind of that legacy aspect to me. Like, oh, these are some legendary characters, and to see them in the game along with all the Disney shit I grew up with, it's a weird combination, but somehow really worked to me. And so I guess to me it was this nice meshing of these things that were nostalgic for me, as well as this like legendary cool thing that I'd never gotten to know about deeper. So it was like I was getting to put them both together, all the while I was playing as what I felt was like a very relatable set of original characters in the cast for Kingdom Hearts. And I guess over the years, it's been really weird watching Kingdom Hearts grow and change as a diehard fan of it, because on one hand, the story just keeps getting more and more interesting. There's always like new stuff going on, but at the same time, I can also be very critical of the series and say some of what's going on is kind of dumb. I'm very interested, but it's all kind of silly in the direction that it takes sometime. And I know plenty of hardcore fans will agree with me as well.
Kingdom Hearts is one of those games I always wished I kind of got into, because when I was a kid, I did not know where I could buy video games, even though there's a GameStop like 15 minutes from my house. It was just one of those things where one of those game franchise that I just sort of missed, but I sort of knew was a big deal. Somehow I always got into the popular ones late, or just missed them completely.
Oh, I am the same way.
I
Missing games completely. I started Mass Effect like half a year ago.
I never got into Mass Effect, and I was just when I went to school for game design for like my first year, I was like the odd one out on everything because I just didn't do Mass Effect. It was interesting times.
I was kind of the odd one out because I played the first one and I loved the first one, but then I just never picked up the second one. I had switched from console to PC at the time, and so the whole aspect of being able to like preserve your saves and like continue from where you left off of, I just wasn't excited about going back to console, so I just never picked it up for a long time.
Yeah, I've only played the first Mass Effect. I have yet to play the second or third one.
My only experience with Mass Effect is apparently in Mass Effect 2, the blue guy or something. If you do a dialogue the right way, he'll start singing a version of Modern Major General from Pirates of
Yep.
Penzance. So I watched that on YouTube, and that was pretty dope.
The one BioWare game that I have played extensively and I am addicted to is the Dragon Age franchise. And I actually got into that franchise not through any of the trailers or any of the game reviews or any of my friends' recommendations, but it was actually my Uncle Les. And just to give you a quick idea, my Uncle Les is like this big, he got rock and roll whole guy. He's in a band. He used to teach skydiving lessons. He's this really cool guy, but above being a father, a band member, he actually is an old school gamer. He was playing video games back in the days when you had to program them into the computer.
That's dope.
And I was just talking to him at one of the family reunions that my family has, and we just got on the topic of video games, never stopped talking, and he was just saying how Dragon Age was a fun game, and this he's also the same person that gave me his copy of Final Fantasy VII, because he was like, I've played this so many times, give it to the next generation to enjoy, so I take his opinion on games very highly, because he's seen the evolution up to this point. So when I started playing Dragon Age Origins, it was the very first RPG I played. So I just burned through it the first time, missed half of all the awesome stuff in it. It was like, what's so special about this thing? I don't know. So I didn't touch it for like a few months. Went back after playing a few more RPGs and figuring out, oh, you have to take your time. This is what you gotta do. Talk to the characters, just level them up differently. So I went in, played it differently, the right way you're supposed to play an RPG, and found so much more depth and story and character. The BioWare Dragon Age Origin game was actually the first time I expected story and character development outside of just, there's a bad guy, shoot him. Because before that, I was all FPSs. So like, there was just some quotes in that game that just sort of stuck with me, even through high school and college. Two quotes in particular. The first is from Sten, the Quinari, or the half-giant character in the game. And it comes when your character is telling Sten that you regret nothing in your life. You haven't done anything that you deem is wrong. And he just looks at you and just says, you either have an enviable memory or a pitiful life to know nothing of regret. And the second one is from the healer character Win, who just pretty much tells this one other NPC, only the fool is completely certain, when talking about how she doubts herself sometimes. Like, there is some trepidation with anything you do, it's just being confident, not 100% like, nothing can go wrong at all.
No,
Like,
that's good.
it's one of the few games I actually 100%. Dragon Age 2, it's fine. It's not great, it's not horrible as some people make it out to be, but it's fun.
Yeah.
If you can avoid the glitches.
Well, as someone who's
can
never
avoid
played
the
it, give me an idea like what's different about it.
Okay, in Dragon Age Origins, there are like a wealth of like interesting characters. You go to, well, the plot of Dragon Age Origins is okay, you have been inducted into the Order of the Grey Wardens, and your task is to stop the Blight. A swarm of tainted monsters that rise up from the earth to spread corruption across the land, and you, as a warden, must slay the archdemon,
Those assholes.
the leader of these monsters. And you just go over to interesting areas to recruit elves, dwarves, mages, humans into your army to fight this tide of evil. In Dragon Age 2, okay, here is one city with very limited and recycled locations, and just defend this one city. It's not bad in the sense that it's a broken game. It's just lesser to its predecessor.
Would you say it's like does its vision change? Like, is it still like the same? Does it still have the same feel to it?
For the most part, yeah, it still has quite a bit of its charm. The humor of these characters is still there. Actually, the humor is a bit better than the first one, I feel. Some people have said that the characters aren't as good, which I disagree with for the most part. There are some characters that I absolutely love in this game, particularly Varric, the dwarven bard with a semi-automatic crossbow named Bianca. And he's actually the narrator of this game, so there are points in the game that are embellished that you will cut to him narrating to someone, and the person will just be, okay, yeah, but for real now. The UI is actually better, but you can't equip your party members with any new armor. You can only change the weapons. And so that's kind of weird how they're pretty much stuck with this one look for the entirety of the game. Meanwhile, in Origins, you could customize your characters like, okay, I want my Dwarven Berserker to be outfitted in heavy plate armor because, well, he needs to survive because he loses health fast. Or, okay, I'm going to give my mages robes because they do not work in plate armor. Also, there are a couple glitches that can occur throughout the game that unfortunately haven't been patched. But if I pull up a quick wiki walkthrough, I can just easily navigate around them. And no sweats. It mostly just has to do with the order in which you encounter certain things. They are completely avoidable, but when the game first launched, it was not very well received. That being said, it's still perfectly playable, fun. There are actually changes to the combat that I really enjoyed, because in Origins, it was pretty much auto attack. Here, you do the fighting, and Inquisition is the perfect Inquisition is the third game in the franchise, and it's a very nice blend of the two. Fun characters, good combats. There's only one or two slight disappointments with the game, but those are minor. But yeah, that franchise kind of told me to expect more from video games than just action. It told me to expect story and to actually feel a deep connection. Because in Dragon Age Origins, spoiler warning, the final choice you make is, will your hero survive? Because as a warden, you have part of the taint inside of you. So you can only kill the archdemon because, as being a warden, you die killing it. It's part of the magic of the darkness that you take into yourself. And another character gives you a way out, a dark bargain. And it was the first time where I felt like, okay, as a high schooler, I made this character after myself, like wanting to throw myself into these situations. And I honestly didn't know what to do. It was the first time I felt like, okay, do I do the morally right thing, or do I cower out of this?
No, that's cool. That's good.
Yeah, no, it's a much more meaningful choice than you usually get presented with in most games.
Oh yeah.
No,
so I immediately made like a bunch of different characters and saw like, okay, let's throw this character through the walls and figure it out. But yeah, my character was morally right and took the sacrifice.
My man.
And then I cried like a bitch.
No, I really like that. I really like how, the developers made it so you would feel a connection to your character. So not only were you feeling the loss of, almost like a companion, but, you also were, making the choice. So, you were the one sending them away. I like that. It's a really nice touch.
Oh yeah, not to mention your character does have an effect on your companion characters. Like, yeah, Morgan being one of the romance options, she's her witch that's very dark, very brooding. She will open up over time and begin to see like, oh, this is what love is like. Or Alistair will gain more confidence in you. Or Algren, the alcoholic dwarf, because of course, will actually regain some self confidence and like regain his honor fighting beside you. Because at the beginning of the game, he does not have any value on his life. But yeah, that game taught me to really put story ahead of anything else.
Excellent. No, I fully, as someone who still kind of is interested in game development, but at one point was very intent on it, I strongly approve of that influence.
So I guess, excuse me. Okay, so let's see. I do have two, but I'll go for Legend of Zelda first. So I guess I would say that Legend of Zelda is almost quite literally one of the reasons that I am actually alive. Way back in the day when Zelda actually had come out, the original Zelda on the NES, my parents had begun dating. And my parents lived pretty much across the country from each other. My dad in New Jersey, my mom in Kansas. And my mom was much further in the game than my dad was. So she had been giving him hints, helped him complete the map and everything like that. So they continued dating, whatever, obviously got married, had me. And growing up, we had that NES for a very, very long time. I believe my parents still have that NES. And growing up, we didn't really get any more games. We just kept what we had. And so a lot of the time, I would just sit down, watch my dad play Zelda. He wouldn't let me play it because he felt it was a little bit too complicated for me. Especially for my age. I was like 5. And eventually, I grew to enjoy watching the game. And then eventually my mom let me play Zelda, and I just absolutely loved it. I guess it was just the whole, at least with Zelda 1, it was essentially just reckless adventure. Just going around, figuring out where you had to go, especially when you don't have the map, which I was completely forbidden to touch when I was a kid, because, kids destroy everything. So, basically, since I wasn't allowed to touch the map that my parents had pretty much made together, it was essentially reckless adventure, trying to figure out everything. Zelda itself is a puzzle with more puzzles within it, which also caused me to grow to have a love-hate relationship with puzzle games to begin with, but whatever. But growing up, even more so, Zelda just exploded in popularity with Ocarina of Time coming out in 97, I believe. And, yeah, 97. With it coming out in 97, I pretty much begged my parents to get me a Nintendo 64, and since then, I've been pretty much attempting to play every single Zelda game. Besides that, I really don't have too much other than my parents' heartwarming, oh my god, they dated because of a video game franchise. I guess it's just a sense of reckless adventure, trying to figure things out, almost in a blind way, to get to the, your full objective. Just the small objectives to get to the bigger piece of the puzzle, which is what caused me to at least love Zelda as it is. I do have a fairly unpopular opinion of Breath of the Wild. It's a good start if they're going in that direction, but it is definitely not the game that deserved 10 out of 10s.
You and I share many of that sentiment, I will grant you, but that was more for Skyward Sword, but yes.
As someone who's played more of the older Zelda games, like before Ocarina of Time, could I ask what you think about Between Worlds, the 3DS one?
Ooh, I actually loved Between Worlds. I actually liked Link Between Worlds a little bit more than I did Breath of the Wild. I finished it extremely quickly, but I guess it was a nice callback. It just felt polished and compared to Breath of the Wild, which is probably why I got a little bit more enjoyment out of it.
I mean, one of the things that I had heard a lot about with Link Between Worlds that was kind of the first one in a while to stray from the Zelda formula that had been established. As like a longer fan of the series, how do you feel about them kind of changing up the classic formula now?
Well, they did it with Ocarina of Time.
No, I mean like keeping the Ocarina of Time formula essentially.
Oh. Honestly, I don't mind. Wow. I guess it's because that's the one thing that I've gotten so used to. That whole... Wait, no, but Breath of the Wild, I mean, other than... What is it? It wasn't a linear dungeon-style game, other than it being... Sorry, can you clarify? When you say the Ocarina of Time formula, what exactly do you
travel
mean?
to a dungeon, get an item, use that to defeat that dungeon. Don't really use that item like for any other boss battles or anything. You find 3 Triforce pieces, combine them, you get the Master Sword, you kill Ganondorf. Or
That asshole.
Oh,
yeah.
With Breath of the Wild, them actually changing up that formula was actually probably a breath of fresh air.
Hey, well played.
But go.
Fun.
Oh, I did not mean that. But whatever. We'll go with this. But I Jesus, you put me in a spot. Basically, I did like where Breath of the Wild went. My opinions are mostly on how it ended up overall as a unpolished game. Because the formula itself, it's when you do it so many times, when you just try to stay in your safe place with a game, doing the same thing over and over, it just starts feeling the same way over and over. They just add a gimmick, as I feel, with these games. I mean, with Skyward Sword, it was really just wiggle-waggle physics. Accurate wiggle-waggle physics, but wiggle-waggle physics. With Twilight Princess, it was really just, I mean, granted, that one's one of my favorites, but it was just really an edgier Zelda, same formula. But when it's throughout the years, yes, you probably will go to the same series because you like the way it's played, but sometimes it just becomes monotonous and it feels like it's almost, I wouldn't call it lazy, but uninspired.
Okay. That's interesting, yeah.
Again, I can only speak for what I assume is me and only me on this earth, who is not a fan of Star Wars or Zelda.
Oh my god!
What do you want from me? Okay, fuck Luke Skywalker.
Why are we friends again?
Hey, that's what I want.
Hey, well, you know what? I will have you know, I don't like Star Trek either, or Lord of the Rings. So I'm even more unpopular than you could think. So
Get out of this group.
You can't be ostracized if you ostracize yourself.
Okay,
no,
it's like saying you can't be taken to jail for a crime if you confess to doing the crime.
Jokes. You can't be taken to trial if you kill yourself. You know, what are they going to do? Charge a dead man? Joke's on them. My life was worth those $2 of Twix bars. No regrets. No, I liked your opinion. I thought that was a really nice observation of a franchise, you know, from as someone who enjoyed it.
What were you, Benny? What's a franchise or nerd thing that you really connected with?
Well,
as a player or a viewer.
All right. Well, that's a tough one because there's 3
Benny
that
has
come
no
to
loves,
mind.
only hates.
Also, yes. There is no love in my life, and that's how I like it. People go, but you're empty on the inside. I say, yeah, well, I got money. So fuck all you people. No, it's there's 3 that come to mind, and just for the sake of brevity, if we have time, I can explain the other 2. The 3 that come to mind are let me just take a drink of some tea real quick because I have a bad feeling I'm going to be talking too long. Delicious. Delicious Trader Joe's green tea. No, I'm not a shill for Trader Joe's.
Until they sponsor the show. Then you will.
I wish they did. That'd be so tight. It's the 3 is BioShock, But the first, I did enjoy the second one and Infinite. Um, the other one is Marvel Studios, both their films and how they make them. But the third one is a curveball because I will pay you $10 if you've heard of it. Not you, Alex. I told you. Is Reboot. Reboot. Does anyone know of it or no?
Yes. Yeah, I know of it.
Really?
I watched it
Really?
when I was a kid. Don't remember it too well, but yeah, I do remember it.
Wow. Wow. I owe you ten
Yeah, I
bucks.
remember it as well.
Holy shit! I love you people. No one says yes. I'm home,
I love you
but I
too.
just got
Give me
kicked out.
$10.
I will if when we ever. I that you're my kind of guy. No, I was gonna
For
say is that
$10,
Reboot.
I can be your kind of guy. I'm sorry.
I
Go ahead.
you. I mean, dude, I kind of want to give you a hug, man. I mean, $10. You're selling yourself real short, dude. Charging three digits, man. Um, no, I was gonna say is that growing up, long story short, not to be all melodramatic, growing up was quite a fucking terrible road trip for me. And basically, all I had to turn to was cartoons and video games. And Reboot stuck out at me to the point that to this day, not only do I have it memorized, but I'm also planning on getting a tattoo actually of it on my left shoulder. Um, and the reason it sticks to me is twofold. It is besides everything else that I could just gush endlessly about. The one reason is that it actually required it respected the intelligence of a child. In this day and age, where say for stuff like Legend of Korra, or stuff like Regular Show, things that are well, actually Regular Show I take back, no offense, but like stuff like Avatar, Legend of Korra, Batman the animated series. This day and age, it's like it's so rare. Like every TV show, right? It comes out, especially for children, is and I know I'm generalizing like mad here, but I think I'm safe to say on average, like on just basically all around is basically the same old shit. It's usually some quirky kid character and everyone's stupid, or there's all these fart jokes and barf jokes that are funny, granted, like they're entertaining, but it's like, you know, it's nothing more than just, lard. It's just filler.
Oh, what's this? Teen Titans Go.
Ah, we don't speak of
I've
that.
never heard lard before. That's a wonderful term for this.
Thank you. No, it's basically lard. It's bland, flavorless, and you just shove it in your mouth, and it's not erotic because it's disgusting. But it's no, and it kind of saddens me because Reboot. Don't get me wrong. And as much as I love it, and I basically worship it scarily enough. The first season and a half were definitely more kid orientated, and that's fine. There is nothing wrong with that. But it's still you required the intelligence not only of a person, but it did respect the intelligence of a child. It treated the kids watching it with a level of respect that I have yet to see outside of places like Avatar or Teen Titans, the original one. As the show went on, from the set halfway through the second season onwards, it got really dark, like progressively darker and darker. And watching it again as an adult, I'm blown away by the level of not only the art was beautiful, but the concepts they were willing to show these kids. Because now, mind you, this wasn't PG-13. This was PG. Kids like the demographic was 8 to 12, and the concepts that were coming up, I won't ruin any of it. Were stuff like death. It was stuff like death. It was stuff like war. There was genocide mentioned twice. There was trauma. There was all these things that not only were heavy subjects, but were woven into the story so well that as a kid, I distinctly remember, pausing because I remember one of the characters changes rapidly from sprightly, young wannabe hero to like a seriously gruff, like, fucking badass but traumatized guy. And in the show, the thing I really, really, really liked is he has anger issues. Like he legit, there's multiple points where people have to tell him to calm down because he's so used to just fighting. There's a point where he's basically asking his friends to shoot at him so he can train because he can't not fight. And as the third season went on and it got darker and darker, it added more and more concepts, and I learned more and more. Like I learned not only about your standard gimmicky family, friends, yada yada. I sort of learned not only the good stuff but the bad stuff that goes with it, like what you have to sacrifice, what you'll have to work with, what you might have to do. what might come of it, even if you are a good guy. And like the fact that I was like 9 and learning these concepts, like not only learning from the show both how to treat children like with the respecting their intelligence, but like also learning about the sort of concepts and themes that we as people basically grapple with all the time, just sort of blows my mind. And there's multiple points, especially later on through the 3rd season, that are dark as fuck. And I'm saying that knowing damn well of Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah,
and
I
Batman
keep getting tempted to bring that up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and to me, like, that has stayed in my life since I was like 3. And honestly, I know they're doing a reboot of it. I know, reboot of reboot. I have decided to not acknowledge that because it sounds atrocious, personally. I refuse to acknowledge it. But no, I just really admire the level of storytelling, the ability to craft characters that were flawed in the best way. They were flawed in a way that makes you apprehensive to them, but for reasons that not only are valid, but you were there for them. Like, it grew with its audience. The same way Avatar Last Airbender did over the course of books 2 to 3. It rebooted the same thing, seasons 2 to 3 and 4. It really did grow with its audience. And it treated, at the end of it all, when I saw the last episode when I was like 10, I really had to take a pause because I literally felt like some sort of, I hesitate to use the word transformation or journey, but like a real phase, or almost like a task of sorts, or an idea had been finished, And to this day, I hold Reboot up to basically the gold standard for children's education. I mean, children's television and education. Fuck it, I'll do both. I hold it up to the gold standard, and I have no regrets about my tattoo. I am planning to spend an ungodly amount of money on it. So, yeah, that's it. I'll shut up because I can just go on and on and on. Hooray!
How the hell did I miss this show?
Yeah, and I know it's corny. I'll just finish up by saying, in the opening theme, Bob would the main character would frequently say, "My format, Guardian, to mend and defend," and at the risk of either being sad, cringy, or creepy, I really feel like almost like I've taken that sort of code, because it's really rare to not only acknowledge, there's everything that goes on about defending your friends and family and blah blah, but very rarely does it mention also working on it. Working on your friends and family, making sure not only are they defended, but that you're doing well, going out of your way for people. And I really admired that. So that's why I tell people, my format, Guardian, to mend and defend.
So, we all have time for about one more fandom each. Who would like to go next then?
I guess let me go first. We'll just keep that.
Yeah, sure. We'll cycle back around.
I guess the one I would like to talk about next is real quick. Let me just come back to Kingdom Hearts and just kind of finish it there.
Yeah,
because
sure.
a bit about how like the series has changed for me, like as a fan over the years. It's like Kingdom Hearts 1. Looking back on it, when you just look at Kingdom Hearts 1 in its singularity, like ignoring the rest of the series, it's still very self-contained. It's a very nice self-contained story about like a very touching story about like a boy and his friends, and him and Kyrie, like they're falling in love and shit. And it's just just looking at the first game, it's a very touching story, and you can see it just as that. But it's when you go outside of that series and you start looking at Kingdom Hearts 2 and Chain of Memories and all the sequels, and after that, it's only then that it starts to become a complicated story about darkness and evil and good and friendship and stuff. When you just look at it in its simplicity, there's a very simple, relatable, very touching story there. And that's been one of the weird things with the series, how it's changed, is that, while it isn't as simplistic, it's grown more complex and detailed. It's really kind of lost that sort of, kind of like with Disney stories, how they're very simple in nature, but they have like a lot of charm to them from being that simple. And, they can tell very human stories that way. As Kingdom Hearts the series has really grown, it's really lost that simplistic, relatable nature to it. Like, it's not as relatable of a story for many people. And so because of that, I know many people growing up who would have only played the first one, and they remember it fondly, but Either they tried playing the later ones and didn't like them, or they just didn't have any interest in them. And just because I think it's kind of interesting how this series has very clearly lost this very charming aspect to it. It's lost some of its charm, but in turn it's gained a lot. It's gained something different. Because the later ones, they aren't bad, but they certainly are different. And that's kind of been one of the interesting things for me as a fan. Because like people love to make fun of this series now because of how incredibly complex it's gotten. But as someone who's been following the series, all the complexity has been very, very interesting to follow. But certainly for newcomers, it's kind of impossible to get into the series now.
Newcomers, it can probably be very overwhelming.
Yeah, no, incredibly overwhelming. Like even other complicated series, something like Metal Gear Solid, I can clearly say, okay, just start with here. Just play these couple of games. You'll be into it. You'll be able to figure out the way into it. With Kingdom Hearts, I don't know what to tell people. It's like there really isn't much I could tell someone besides start at the very beginning, just go through it.
It's like someone trying to get into comic books.
Yeah.
Where do you start?
Yeah. No, I feel you. All right, but yeah, that wraps up Kingdom Hearts for me. I guess the other one that I'd really like to talk about is kind of my namesake, not namesake, but my series. I gotta say is my thing, my shtick that everyone knows is my shtick, and that's Ghost in the Shell. I fucking love Ghost in the Shell. So originally I was on Adult Swim not growing up, but for my high school years, I guess, and I'd never watched the series. Again, all these things that I'm like a big fan of, I never watched them when they were big or when they were like at their height, I guess I would say. I would watch it on and off, like stay up late and watch episodes of it, and I would just find it interesting, but I would just never I never got hooked into the show. But there was one point where it's like I watched an episode of it one night, and I was just like, you know what? At some point, I should just watch this series because it always seemed kind of interesting, and I'm always just too tired by this point in the night to really give it a fair shot. So one day I just got the DVDs, I watched it, and after the first season I was like, oh, this is pretty good. I like it. I watched the second season, and that was the definitive point where I was like, okay, this is it. This is my favorite series now. I love it. It just went from being, okay, this is pretty good, to being, this is my all-time favorite. This takes the cake.
What did you think of the 3 animated Ghost in the Shell movies?
So for most fans of the franchise, the first 2 animated films were how they got into the series. Like, most people did not get into the TV show, from what I understand. And so because of that, I don't have the first 2 movies don't have the same sort of nostalgic value to me as they do for most people. That being said, though, I can watch them and still appreciate like the excellent animation to them, and the story that they were trying to tell at the time. But looking back on it, they probably aren't as magical to me as they are for some people. Like, I can look at the first one, and even though I know it predates The Matrix, I can't help but draw similarities to The Matrix because they're very similar in terms of like their overall theme and tone.
I see more Blade Runner personally.
Yeah, I could see that too as well.
Yeah, the first 2 films are very philosophy heavy.
Yes.
Like, the series itself has quite a bit of philosophy, but weaves it better into the narrative.
I completely agree.
I feel.
Yeah, the show does a much better job of weaving the philosophical aspects into it, but it makes the dialogue sound much more natural. Even in the first one, it could get a bit wordy, but it was still pretty good about being natural. But in the first 2 films, it's awful. People just go on spiels just out of nowhere, just and a bit unprompted.
Bravo to the voice actors though for being able to fit that onto the lip flaps.
It's really crazy that how just people will just suddenly come out of nowhere with this huge grandiose speech about life itself. Just very, very unprompted. It feels kind of scripted in that way. But but I because I don't have that same nostalgic value for the first 2 films, I can look at them and appreciate what's great about them, but I also can clearly see flaws in them. And maybe this is just my nostalgia for having seen the show first, but I see the show as very clearly improving upon things that the earlier movies did too.
Oh yeah, I saw the animated series first and the movies second as well, so I agree with you. Like, I think the series does its job a little bit better than the movies. At least for me. I found the plotline of looking for the copy of something that does not have an original to be fascinating for the Laughing Man case. Yeah. And I actually did an essay in my feminism and literature class comparing the character from The Handmaid's Tale, Alfred, to the Major, but both characters who go around working with a title as opposed to their real names, because Motoko's real name is hardly ever spoken aloud
Yeah.
often in the show. She's the Major. She's the leader of operatives in Section 9 first. She's and she's the person second. And I feel like she's very job-oriented.
Yeah.
I found that fascinating about her as a character. She's one of my favorite female protagonists in all of anime,
Same.
actually.
Yeah. No, of all time, I would say she's one of mine. One of the weird things though with the show itself is that, you and I both found the show out probably through Adult Swim. I'm guessing, right?
Oh, yeah.
I guess most people. I really am curious how they originally got into the franchise through the movies, because that begs the question of like how these movies were distributed. Because I know the first one only had like a very limited release in the theaters. So I guess most of these people like watched it on VHS, like they saw it at Blockbuster or something and rented it, or like.
I know the second film is particularly hard to find because I think they changed distribution rights. So finding it in English is close to impossible unless you go online.
Makes sense.
Because I ordered an English version off of Amazon, came into the mail, it's not dubbed, even though it said English.
Yeah. And it's hard enough to do that now. Imagine how hard it must have been like way back when it actually came out. Too.
Yeah. But have you seen the third animated movie?
Yes, Solid State Society. Honestly, I just don't feel like there's much to say about it. It's just, it's fine. It's not good or bad. It's just, it's fine.
Yeah, I agree.
I like that. Yeah. Solid State Society. That's my kind of society. I like that.
Yeah.
And,
I'm tempted to get into the live action movie too, but we could do a whole episode about that. So
I was going to mention that, and then I thought better of it because again, I swear I don't mean in disrespect. I've just never gotten an anime. It's just I respect it. I like it. It's just never clicked with me on the level. So when I saw a Ghost in the Shell movie with Scarlett Johansson, I was like, oh, that should probably be pretty good, right? And then I heard all the response, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna just keep my mouth shut. That's all I'm gonna say on the matter.
For the sake of this video, though, if you could sum up your feelings with it.
For the sake of this video, I think the one thing I'm definitely want to say to people is, whether you're a fan or not of the show, you owe it to yourself to give this film a try. Because there's good things about it, there's bad things about it, but I think the biggest problem I have is that people wrote it off immediately because of the casting of Scarlett Johansson. And while I think it certainly is a detriment to the film, it's certainly worth watching because there's still so much good stuff in there. It's worth giving a shot. Whether or not you come away from it like hating it or loving it, I think either way it's still worth watching because it does still try to do a whole lot of things. Even if it fails, it's worth to watch it try.
I can see that. I unfortunately never had the chance to watch it in theaters. I wanted to, but I missed it. My work schedule was way too crazy. But actually, I actually want to move on to an anime that got me pretty much hardcore into anime myself.
I feel so bad. I feel so cast out.
Not into Star Trek, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, or anime.
How dare I, right?
Yep. What do you have?
How dare
boy?
Boy. Don't talk to me like that. You'd be surprised the kind of motor it revs up.
Oh boy.
Right. I don't know. I have the Jew card. It's pretty dope. 8 days of presents, free latkes. When inevitably the white people are put on trial for their crimes against the world, they get to say, I'm actually not white, and get to sort of hop, skip, and jump out of there. While white people are fucking fucked, and I can sort of do a little dance in the background, and put on a kippah and take out my bag of shekels and say, Baruch atah Adonai, motherfucker.
Jesus Christ.
But back to the beautiful segue that was there once. When I was in middle school, no, not middle school, this was probably closer in the 5th or 6th grade. I was getting older and I realized, okay, I'm getting to that age where it's no longer socially acceptable to really be as interested in cartoons as he would like to be, because I come from a family that's mostly jocks. My dad was a football player in high school, and he worked for NBC Sports. My mother was a cheerleader and a swimmer, and she met my father working at NBC Sports. My older sister, star player on her lacrosse team. My younger sister, star player on her soccer team. My brother and I, nerds. We are super nerdy. It got to the point where my sister woke me up in the middle of the night to ask me how to turn on the Xbox. That's how inept she is with video games. So, I was like, I don't really want to learn to like sports, because back when I was younger, I thought, okay, well, I have to like sports now. There's no choice. I don't know why I thought that. That's the dumbest thing to think, because there are a plethora of good live action shows I could have possibly watched. But no, I had to learn to like sports, apparently. But my friend Dustin, he told me about this one show that's on Adult Swim called Full Metal Alchemist. And I remember catching one glimpse of it before the end credits rolled, of the main character, Ed Elric, clapping his hands, touching his arm, and drawing a sword out of his palm. So I was like, okay, I have a little bit of working knowledge on this show, his show, so yeah, I'll give it a shot. Unfortunately, I kept missing it because of how late it was and how tired I got. I finally get a moment to check it out, and it is a episode most fans remember in horror, because who here is familiar with Fullmetal Alchemist? Benny, I know you're not.
I do.
If it's the moment I think we're talking about, I've seen a funny picture about it. Go on.
You probably do.
All right.
I know the series.
Naki, YouTube.
I know both series, Brotherhood and 07.
Oh yeah, I love both series, though personally I prefer Brotherhood just because of the ending, because I'm that kind of person. You know, someone who prefers.
I think most people
happy
prefer
endings.
Brotherhood.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
There are pros and cons to both.
I'm just trying to fit
But
in.
shut up, you.
Oh, I'll just sit over here and my money and my latkes.
The Latka Corner.
Go with on your ghettos.
Right, I got my Manischewitz.
But I tune in. It's an episode where Ed, Al are visiting the Soaring Life Alchemist, and they're getting to know his daughter Nina Tucker. At the very end of the episode, all I hear is Ed.
Oh god, the feels.
My brother and I shit our pants with horror, and we were just staring at the screen like, oh my god, did he just, oh my god. That father merged his daughter with their dog to create a chimera. And the second the episode ends, my brother and I just look at each other and sort of go, awesome, we don't have to learn to like sports. They make cartoons for adults.
That's not the appropriate reaction to have after watching someone fucking sew their dog to their daughter.
But that episode that a lot of fans view as one of the darkest moments of anime is just one of my favorite moments, because it got me into this genre. I got to experience so many other animes because I went looking for them, because I thought, okay, this is more mature for the teenage young adult audience. I can fully enjoy this 100%. So I checked out shows like Trigun, Berserk, and a lot of shows that aren't mature at all. In fact, they were downright stupid. But I was already familiar enough with anime from Toonami, with Rurouni Kenshin and Yu Yu Hakusho, but I was kind of young-ish and didn't really fully comprehend them until I went back and rewatched them. But I can go on about Full Metal and its sequel series and the movies. It's actually one of my top 5 favorite animes.
It's probably up there
And
for
the
me
moves.
too. It was really good, Brotherhood.
I think it's in my top 4. I have a very strange top 10. My top 5 in particular are particularly curious. Number 1, Rurouni Kenshin. Number 2 and 3, Durahara and Cardcaptor Sakura. The only anime I've seen subbed. I have a reason for that, but I will go into that possibly another time.
Okay.
Naki, how about you?
Oh boy. Let's see, One Piece.
Oh boy.
Why am I not
Oh, boy.
surprised?
My
Well, I mean, if you've seen my Twitter before I nuked it, you would know.
I didn't know you existed
like-
before an hour ago. How am I going to see your Twitter? What do you?
Well,
do you
no,
think-
I mean it's too late now. I nuked the shit
Yeah,
out
what
of
do you think?
it,
I stalk
so...
every woman on Twitter?
But okay, One Piece. Why do I like it? Well, for one, it's actually been consistently good for as long as I've been watching it, which is probably about 2 years. I've actually gotten fairly far in it altogether, by the way. I'm at like 500 something, so I'm right before the time skip, so I've committed to a long goddamn series. But at least, okay, let me at least put it like this. I know a lot of people don't want to watch it because it's 700 episodes long and still going and probably won't end until it hits 1200. But it's worth it. I feel that, yes, there's some pretty crappy arcs, but it's, other than that, I mean, the crappy arcs, I mean, really, I can only name 2, and I still managed to truck through them. Other than that, it's consistently good.
You're talking to someone who powered through Bleach and Naruto filler.
I stopped
Y'all are
watching
mad
Naruto
lads.
because there were 2 years
Mad
of filler.
lads.
Yeah, I gave up on Bleach when it came to like, oh, we're taking a break from the main fight to go talk about a what if scenario. Yeah, screw this. Naruto, I was actually interested into sticking through.
Anyways.
Back to One Piece.
Back to One Piece.
I could talk about One Piece forever, and I'm a new fan. But I guess the reason why I love it so much is it not only is it consistently good, a lot of the characters are just, for the most part, are well written. I could say that for everybody except for Brooke. But it's just, you have what I believe his. I'm not even gonna count how many people are in his crew right now, but there should all of
9, I believe.
I think it's 9 because he wants 10, but
Yeah. It's Luffy, Zoro, Nami, Usopp, Sanji, Chopper, Robin, Frankie, and Brook.
I can't count. So,
Which one of them's hot?
Frankie.
Sure, why not? See, joke's on you. I don't care if that's a guy's name, because Frankie Foster from Foster's Home Imaginary Friends was my crush growing up, so ha.
Oh, well, Frankie wears a Speedo and he has hairy legs. So,
Hey, man, bears keep you warm.
That's the spirit.
Yeah,
He's
man.
also a cyborg.
yeah.
Hey, man, you never go soft.
A perverted engineer cyborg.
I mean,
And-
hey, if it means I gotta take it, kind of hard, but it means I get a jetpack. Sign me up, man. I'm not too attached to my ass anyway. All it does is
Neither
sit
is
there
he.
and take up space.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Where do we go with this?
I'm sorry. My ass knows no limits. I'm sorry.
To put it short, it's consistently good. I'm actually really happy it's such a long series because when I actually go on breaks, because I basically what I've been doing is I watch a whole arc and then go on a break, watch a different anime, and then go back to One Piece. That is honestly the best way to do it.
That sounds smart.
Yeah. Watching it weekly is probably the worst thing you could ever do, by the way.
I tried, and he fell out of it by mistake.
Yeah. But, yeah, I just love how consistently good it is. I've seen a couple of the movies, so my opinion varies depending on the movie itself. I've seen Strong World movie 5 I've seen parts of movie 5 and most of movie 6. But overall, I mean, I feel like even though this is Oda's first his own work, he does a damn good job at least making these characters likable, makes the enemies, like, you just want to fucking kill them.
I hate Wapol. I want to punch that guy in the face.
Okay, who likes Wapol? Because, he's literally the biggest piece of shit. That and, Foxy. Foxy is my least favorite overall, mostly because of his laugh.
Yeah, I hate Wapol for all the right reasons.
Well, yeah.
Like, he slapped a child, Vivi.
I mean, he sounds pretty dope to me. I mean, fucking Chow Vivi comes at me, I'm a smacker. Him, I can't tell. Okay, you know what?
Bez,
What?
you would actually get along well with him. His power is to eat and absorb the properties of the things he consumes.
I mean, I'm already kind of a fat sack of shit, so it's like I'm not exactly sure how that would benefit me because I don't think I could swallow a Beretta 9mm and not die. So, and I don't want to become a cannibal because I don't think eating people gives me their power. Anyways, thank you though. I'm flattered.
I actually have to agree with you, Naki. I haven't gone past the CP9 arc where they save Robin.
My God.
That's actually the arc that got me back into it.
Really?
I saw a clip on YouTube way back when when 4Kids lost the license. I was like, I'm going to drift out of this. I see a clip of it in Japanese with the Straw Hat Pirates declaring war on the entire world. I'm like, yeah, I'll get back in on this. I like Oda's method of world building. He doesn't just keep going backwards to flashbacks to show things. He expands the world naturally as the pirates sail through the world.
Yeah, and
we get tidbits of information way back in episode 10, and then it will pay off quite a bit of the ways down, like in episode 300, or possibly even further down.
yeah, so example is Jinbei. Oh, you don't really get to him yet because you're not at Impel Down. But basically, Jinbei is a character that's mentioned, I think, right before or during the Arlong arc. And you don't see him until, like, episode... because I'm at 516 now, until 400-something.
I'm familiar with who he is. I've read a little bit of the manga.
Yeah. So,
he's a fishman,
yeah,
right?
he's a fishman. So, the fact that he... I would say... Well, granted, this is also unpopular, but what is it? Toriyama is good at one thing, which is keeping you hooked to, well, in example with Dragon Ball, keeping you hooked to a series with action. Oda is really good with keeping you hooked with actual story.
Oh, yeah.
Because he manages, I don't know how, but to remember absolutely every single thing that he's done in the past, almost 20 years with One Piece.
That's actually a funny comparison, because Toriyama has a horrible memory.
So where's lunch? where did she go?
I know, I miss her. She's the best thing about Dragon Ball.
Where is Goten's tail?
We're not talking about food when you say lunch, okay?
Yeah,
Dragon Ball has a lot of naming puns.
It's all there's food, there's panty bra,
Trunks,
yeah.
Oh wow, you know that
Dr. Briefs,
goddamn CJ. Goddamn it, Japan.
I'm glad I
the
could be
thing
here.
with Japan is that
I'm glad I could be here to hear his reaction to finding out.
Because I haven't watched Dragon Ball Z in forever. Although they had a dope ass game on Cartoon Network back in the day. They had like a fucking dope game. Anyways, I'll be quiet. I know my place in the anime conversation.
Get out of here.
Is to sit in the back quietly sobbing and then come in with an inappropriate joke about anal sex at some point. Tell me I'm wrong though.
It's true. That's how it's been so far.
And no one's kicked me out and or threatened to kill me, so I mean, I think it's cool. I'm not sure yet.
Anything else you want to add to the One Piece?
Goddamn, watch it. If somebody like me and even you, Storm, have managed to... Yes, you do.
No.
There was always time for One Piece.
Just stop sleeping and taking showers.
Oh, yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah, you asked too much on that one. Showers, I can negotiate. Sleep, get out of here.
I don't know what sleep is, but give it a shot. The writing is really, really good for what it is.
I'll actually just chime in real quick. I've watched movie 6, and I thought it was actually very well done, very well written. So even as a...
Yeah, that one was...
Baron and the Island of the Flower and shit. But it's like, even as a non-fan of One Piece, I can appreciate like some of the writing.
And actually, that one was one of my favorites because Mamoru Hosoda was the one that directed that one, which he did Summer Wars, Wolf Children.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And you can really tell with his directing that it was him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curiosity, sub or dub?
Sub.
Any opinion on the dub cast?
I hate calling Clinkenbeard. I also don't like whoever is Chopper. Everyone else is actually pretty fucking good, though. Actually, I don't remember the guy who is Brooke, but he does his laugh perfectly.
Wow.
All right.
I just freaking love Sonny Strait. He has, or is it Sonny Strange? It's Krillin voicing Usopp.
I heard his. I don't remember how he sounds, but I heard his voice is really good. I mean, overall, Funimation has been really good with dubs overall, especially as of late. I just don't like who Luffy and Chopper are.
That's fair.
Yes. Yes. I too. I too do not like loofahs in my shower. Yes.
I'm a dub guy through and through, unfortunately. But not unfortunately, I actually don't mind most dubs.
I'm a disgusting weeaboo, so...
It's fine.
Those were your words. I was not going to say either one of those words. I want it on the record. I never brought that up.
Because you don't know what weeaboo means.
You know what? Pass. Hashtag pass.
Ben, would you like to finish this up here?
Sure. Yeah. No. I mean, I never leave a lover dry. I mean, I didn't say that.
Take two.
You know what? I stand by it. Actually, fuck you. I don't know. I gave it a lot of thought, and I think out of the two of Marvel Studios and BioShock, I'll do BioShock. I can quickly say I admire Marvel Studios, their dedication to collaboration. Just real quick, just throwing out there, I really admire how they actively search for people who play nice with others. I really respect that. As far as BioShock goes, I don't know, I'm just trying to find the words for it because I had heard about it, and I had never played it until, honestly, I found it at a video store going out of sale for Xbox, and I asked a kid if he had played it, and he said, yeah, you should play it. And it was like $10, so I was like, fuck it. And I bought it, and I took it home, and then 13 hours later, I finished it, because I just didn't get up. I just couldn't pry myself away. I found myself not only engrossed, but I felt emotionally invested in a story for the first time in a very long time. Real quick, we've all played BioShock here, yes?
Yes. Well, Infinite.
Infinite, that's quite all right, because I was going to mention Infinite.
I played 1 and 2.
2 wasn't that bad. I'm like the minority. I actually didn't mind it. No,
I played all of them.
I found myself not only is it the emotional impact it had on me, because again, you have to understand at the time, not only at the time, but just like in general, I don't emotionally invest myself in things personally, because there's only so much emotion I can spare that I have left beside, because I'm all cynical and shit. And the fact was I wasn't prepared to invest any in BioShock, and it just straight up ripped it out of me. The opening scene where you hold a little sister's life in your hands, there's one point where if you move close to it, it falls backwards and knocks over a wine bottle. And it just sort of keeps going backwards because it's in sheer terror. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt a sense of accountability for my actions in a video game. For a very long time. And this isn't knocking down fun, violent video games. I'm not knocking it. I fucking am addicted to Doom, which is dope. But it's the first time I actually paused for a second, because my initial response was, yeah, let me just rip off her head, grab that slow, let's get some shit. And it was the fact that not only that her life was in my hands, and not only was she shaking, but there was this option that you could not only spare her, but like revive her, like from her transformed form. And when I chose that option, just this sort of, moment where essentially, the screen blanks out for a second and it comes back and she's all normal and shit. It was like the first time in a very, very long time that I felt like I'd actually had an impact on the story. Like I actually did something good, not only for myself as the player, but the community of characters I was being presented with. And it was from that moment on in the game, I hadn't done this in a very long time, become just permanently attached to something. I fully dedicated myself to just, not being an asshole. I didn't kill a single little sister. I went out of my way to kill splicers that were giving little sister shit. And as the game went on, I just became more and more engrossed and more in depth, to the point that by the time I finished it, like I said, it was 13 hours later, I hadn't gotten up and I was almost sighing and breathing. Not sighing, I was heaving. I was just so burnt from the whole experience. And the end of the game when you get the good ending, it literally drove me to tears. I'm not exaggerating. I am fully serious. It drove me to tears. I was sobbing because I felt not only the sense of connection to these characters, but almost like a sense of the game acknowledging me as a player. Not necessarily just for playing it, but like as a player in the narrative. It's really, really rare for a game to recognize the player's impact on the story, because normally the player is basically what drives it. But it's so rare to have a game reward you so well for such a good ending. And then as I played it again, I went in just with a more, because this was when I was planning to study game design, and at the time I picked Bioshock as, okay, I'm gonna, because one of the essays asked me to analyze a game, and so I said I'll do Bioshock because I have no life and fuck yes. And I realized something, that Bioshock not only did it demand the intelligence of a person, but it demanded the willingness to learn. Like, you needed to learn. You needed to learn everything from Ayn Rand's objectivism to how to survive, because the game quickly teaches you combat is unforgiving as fuck. The cream-filled cake you find in the bottom of a dustbin means the difference between life and death. And for me, the fact it kept teaching the player not only new powers and guns and abilities, but also how to mix them, how to use the environment to your advantage. And as the game went on, the level of detail, the story, and the art went into reinforcing the importance of the powers blew my mind. To me, to this day, the only one game surpasses Bioshock, and that's Bioshock Infinite, which I will tell you about now. Because Bioshock Infinite, the shortest way to summarize it is the end. I will not ruin the ending, because I hate when people ruin the ending. But the ending of, people have beaten it here, right? Yes?
I have.
Okay, so in the ending, which I will not ruin for the listeners, but at the very end, I almost felt hollow, because I was so blown away by the depth and the level of complexity that went into the narrative, and my emotional attachment to Elizabeth, and my total emotional attachment to the citizens of Colombia, and my level of, how do I say this? It's like, I didn't cry, actually, at the end. I'm not trying to sound brave. I didn't cry. But what I did was, I actually, at the time, I don't smoke anymore, but I was a fairly heavy smoker. I went outside and I just sort of sat there. I lived in New York City, and so I went to Union Square and I sat outside and I had about 10 cigarettes. And I just thought. I just thought. All I did was think, like, not even processing the story, but I thought essentially about everything. To put it weirdly, and like almost like I'm smoking weed now and I'm getting all stoned and shit, which I'm not. No, I started thinking about everything, like both the concept of life and your actions upon others. And I found myself in awe of the pivotal moment in Bioshock Infinite, which to me seals it as this is the most wildly unpopular opinion of all time. Are you ready? Ready?
I'm kind of ready.
You ready?
To me, Bioshock Infinite is the greatest game ever made. I have not felt a game to this day, to this moment. To me, it was the ultimate gaming experience. You learned, you played, you had fun, you had a story, and you had an emotional investment. The scene when Elizabeth asks you, if she gets out of control, and she doesn't say a word, but she puts, your hand on her throat. I dropped the controller. Because even though I knew it was fake, I still, just completely impulsively said no. Like, I won't do that. And to me, it's so rare for a game to be able to weave, similar to Bioshock, just like Bioshock, to weave intellectual themes, completely kick-ass gameplay, and a level of emotional depth to complexity that, in my opinion, very few films have managed to achieve. And to this day, I hold Bioshock and Bioshock Infinite as on my highest lists of inspiration for anything I do. And I stand by that. Bioshock 2 was also fun. I mean, I don't care if people say this. Yeah, the story was kind of shit, but hey, I got to be a big daddy. And there's a Bioshock 2 rap song by Team Headkick, which I strongly recommend everyone listen to. It's some of the best shit. And the worst thing about it is I have it memorized, and I'm like the whitest, palest kid, but I can rap that shit like no other.
You need to talk to a friend of mine then.
I fucking love that shit. But no, I Bioshock to me, when people say they want to get in game design, I hand the Bioshock. I say, here you go. Everything, this is game design 101. This is the gold standard. Only, in my opinion, the only people who should be allowed to touch the Bioshock franchise are the people at Irrational Games. Well, actually, I forget what they called themselves. They changed to something else. But God bless Ken Levine. Without him, games would suck. That's it. I'll be quiet. I'll shut up now.
That's fine. So, that's all the time we have for, unfortunately. We've talked about amazing video games, some kick-ass anime, and how about you share some of your fandoms in the comments below? And if you have a topic that you want us to talk about, feel free to message us and tell us what you want us to go over next. Thanks for tuning in to Fandemonium. See you next time.